Here's Jordan Joe Hollabaugh.
3.1. She's in the money.
She was about as fast as she could have been on that
one. 2.9 seconds. And now she is number one.
You are officially in the loop. Welcome back to In the Loop podcast and our special series, 15 Days of Breakaway, brought to you by Wrangler, Long Live Cowgirls. And today we are talking to Miss Joy Williams, who's coming in at number 10. And this episode is special to me because Joey is somebody that I have seen make 4 national finals rodeos now. But today she talks about the vulnerability and the sincerity of how different it looks this year for her national finals qualification than it looked in the years past, how much sacrifice there's been, and really what it's going to look like for her. And although she came in and won $110,000 this year to qualify in the number 10 spot to National Finals Breakaway Roping 2025, she talks about what an all-out dogfight and a battle that it was all year long. And it's just so surreal to think that somebody that made the national finals still is talking about how this was a dogfight all year. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode today. Thank you for joining us. Again, long live Cowgirls, and tune in to Miss Joy Williams, number 10. Welcome back to 15 Days of Breakaway. We are here today with number 10, Miss Joey Williams. This is her 4th National Finals Breakaway Roping qualification. We are very glad to have her here today at $110,550, 76 rodeos, 4th NFBR qualification. Miss Joy Williams, welcome to In the Loop.
Thanks for having me.
More like welcome back. That's what we were catching up on. This is the 4th time you have been on 15 Days of Breakaway, and so you're like a little attuned to what we're fixing to go through right now. But it looks a little bit different now, and it's really fun to talk through some of the things that as this journey for NFBRs, like what comes to your mind when you think of 4 National Finals Breakaway Roping qualifications?
Well, for one, it's very exciting, but to be honest with you, as you say that, I can think of, how much work it is, all the work and all the things that go into it behind the scenes and everything like that. But I'm pretty excited that I'm, getting the opportunity to go back to Vegas again this year. I sat out last year's finals, so yeah, looking forward to it.
And this year we saw the numbers blown out of the water, right? 110,000 to be in the top 10 of the breakaway world standings is a phenomenal number. But talk about the journey that it took to get there. Like you said, this is your 4th time, so you're a veteran, right? You know what's going on, and you know that what it takes to make the national finals breakaway roping. Last year you didn't qualify, you didn't make it. You were in the top. I think you were in the top 20. But, you didn't have the year that you wanted. So to be able to rally and come back, talk us through, what that took.
I guess my journey always might look a little different than other people's because I try my best to do what's best for my family, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like that. But last year I had decided that I was ready to slow down a little bit. So I went to the winter rodeos, and if I remember it, they just kind of went so, good enough to maybe try to rodeo, but not great. And so going into the summer, Taylor and I talked, and I was gonna, just maybe go to the better ones, do some circuit rodeos and things like that. And so I kind of started out in July like usual and went to mostly circuit rodeos. And then by the end of July, I had actually had a little bit of luck. And so going into August, I decided to start entering some more. Like I didn't go to any of the Utah rodeos last summer or anything like that. I was trying to stay closer to home. So then when August came around, I was really trying to play catch up. I was just, hanging around that top 20, top 15. And I really went out there in August and tried hard. And once school started in September was getting close, I just decided that I was going to I don't know if throwing in the towel is the right word, but my kids had started school and I knew what it was going to take in September to make the finals. And I wasn't willing to put forth the effort to just, try to stay alive in the top 15. So I kind of decided to stay home in September, and I don't regret it at all. I got to go to, most of Landon's football games and be around for a lot of that stuff that happens once school starts. And, so last year, like you said, I didn't go to Vegas. And so that was, for the first time in 4 years, it was kind of hard to watch on TV, but it was okay. I got to go down for the Kimes Ranch, and that was really fun. And so then going into the winter this year, I kind of had the same game plan, was going to go to the winter rodeos because I had qualified and probably time to slow down, still telling myself. And boy, did I eat those words going into this year. So I had a pretty good winter this year. And, it's crazy. I think I came out of the winter with like maybe 50 some thousand. I don't even remember the exact number now, but so many people see you after the winter rodeos and they just assume you have the finals made. And I want to laugh at them and be like, because I knew it was going to take a lot more money this year. And I don't think people realize how hard it is to go out there in the summertime, even if you have 40 or 50,000 one coming from the winter to go and make, go win another 60,000 or something throughout the summer and into September. And so though I was sitting good, so we kind of went into the summer, gonna give it my all this year, and I set a goal to be in the top 10. And the saying that you don't want to set your goals too low because that's exactly where you're gonna land. And I feel like that happened to me this year. I should have said I was gonna end up, in the top two. And so I set a goal this summer to finish in the top 10 because I really wanted a chance to go to the Kimes Ranch. And I think there's a saying about that, you want to set your goals higher than where you actually want to land because that's exactly what happened to me. I, set a goal to be in the top 10 and I finished 10th by just, not very much money, just barely made it in there. So maybe I should have set my goals a little higher. So that should be some advice for those young girls out there. Really don't hesitate to set your goals really high because I think a lot of times you land right where you set them. So
And I think that that's something that we saw, and I just wanna say congratulations. To be in the top 10 each and every year it's taken a whole new level. To be in the top 15 last year, it took 80,000. And Raymond and I had this conversation in July. He said, "What do you think it's gonna take?" And I said, "It's gonna take 100,000." And it was, I think just barely short of that, right? And so
yeah.
to be in the top 10, I think that's another conversation even to be had because that gets you in automatically to rope in 6 out of the 10 rounds at the Kimes Ranch $1,000,000 breakaway roping, which those rounds and the payout there is very similar to what the contestants get to run at every night at the Thomas and Mack round. And so that is a huge deal for us as contestants and cowgirls. So setting your mark on that top 10 at 110,000, 11th is 109,000. And that was one thing, you and I were talking about a little bit earlier is I saw you went to rodeos, the normal Joey Williams that I know goes to 50 rodeos a year, makes the NFR pretty cush, obviously, and has a great, phenomenal horse, family behind her. But this year, you go to 76 rodeos. Like you didn't give up. You were committed all the way through because you wanted to be in that top 10 to then not only make your fourth national finals, but also to give yourself that opportunity for the Kimes Ranch.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I was so ready to come home after Puyallup because my kids had been in school for a couple weeks and I had entered that stuff in Texas. Everybody wants to go to Puyallup and just have a good weekend and get to go home afterwards. And I, made the finals there, but didn't do any good in the finals. So I didn't make the final four. So I had a pretty long trip home from there. Wishing that I would have caught that calf. And, that's the way it goes sometimes, though. Everyone's path is different. Some years you might just have the big wins and, kind of struggle in between. But this year was definitely a marathon for me. I didn't really have the bigger wins that I've kind of had in the past. It was more like placing along. And so there's definitely more than one way to get there. And it took me to stick it out to the end this year. Like you said, I found myself at a rodeo in Louisiana. I was in Texas in the end of September and places that I would have never normally went. And it was really difficult for me. Mentally it was hard. I really, really wanted to be home. The kids were home and Shay and Carson got to come out to the Northwest a little bit, but Landon was, he's old enough that he's in sports now. And so he has practice and games and I got to, hit a couple games on weekends in September when I was home, but I was gone a lot and it was very difficult, I think, for all of us. We got through it. I have such a supportive family that, you know, I have so much help here at home. My family, Taylor's family, Taylor, they all throw in and do what they can, but coordinating stuff over the phone, between preschool pickups and football practices and dentist appointments and all of that, it definitely gets difficult. And I think in the middle of the summer when the kids can go with me, no one's having more fun rodeoing than I am in the middle of July when the whole family gets to go out and go to all those big rodeos with me. We're having a blast, but when it gets to be September, I have never had to rodeo that hard in September before, and it was hard. I'll just be honest. It was very hard for me.
Well, and tell us how you stay motivated through that because everybody's journey looks different. I love how you said that. And you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a sister, you're a friend. You've got a huge family operation going on at home and it doesn't ever quit. It's a full-time thing and then you take off and you get to rodeo like you said when you're together, but that's a small percentage of the time. So what do you do to stay motivated out there on the road, to stay focused and show up and perform at a high level?
Honestly, you just have to keep reminding yourself what your goals are and, your why you're doing this. And I guess for me, I think a lot of it when it's towards the end of September, I just think of everything I've sacrificed already this year to get to that spot. So, why would you quit with 2 weeks left when you've spent an entire year, working hard for something that you truly want? And for me, that was to get it. Not saying that I'll win a dime at the Kimes Ranch, but I, stuck it out to the end and I accomplished my goal and I get the chance to rope there and get to go back to Vegas this year. So I'm just, it's very humbling when you set a goal like that and it's not easy to achieve and you have to go the extra mile all the way to the end, which I feel like is what I had to do. I feel like the whole family did. So I guess this might be the most special qualification I've had so far because it didn't happen easily this year.
I remember one of my fondest memories for you this year is at Houston. We're having the conversation. You had a great Houston. You won 20,000. And like you said, everybody looks at Raymond always tells me the top 5 after the winter rodeos probably have a pretty good chance of making the national finals. And he said, but everybody else, it's an open gate. Anybody can get there after then because there's so much money to be won now. But you told me, you said, Taylor and I have talked and I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna go all in one more time because I've got baby and our kids are only gonna be little this once. And she said, it's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna go all in. And we saw you do that. How did that conversation evolve? Horse of the year, baby in 2022, she's placed other than that, I mean, everybody knows baby and would love to be able to ride her, but you've got one of the confidence in your horse is outstanding and in your family, but I don't think people understand the sacrifices of what you're actually missing out on and what it takes. We say, yeah, you go to 76 rodeos and yeah, you miss your kids, but it's the all-night drives and like you said, when you miss at Puyallup and it's not going good and you still have to get in the truck, you're not gonna be there for them. Like, talk just a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, on paper, 76 rodeos is just 76 rodeos, but when you think about what it takes to actually, get in your truck and load your horses and your kids and whoever, whether it's my mom or my sister-in-law, my sister, my husband, whoever, sometimes it's just Shay and I. And it's 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 every single week looks different for me, and I don't think people understand that. I have never hired a full-time nanny, which might be silly looking back. Maybe should have done that, but I just wanna be there with them myself or with my husband, and so every week is different. Sometimes they're home, sometimes they're at my mother-in-law, sometimes they're at my mom's. I could the list goes on. They, might look like my sister hauling them home from Cheyenne so they can get back for a youth rodeo, and then someone else meeting me in Sheridan with them so they can get back in for a while and go to Calgary or something. It's the coordination when you have 3 kids and trying to keep them with you as much as you can, but still allowing them to get to football camps and basketball camps and wrestling camps and, I mean, swimming lessons, like, you name it, we try to do it all, and there are definitely things that they sacrifice on, but I think as a whole, my family has just picked up the slack so much for me so that I can, live out my dream and achieve these goals, and, it's pretty amazing to have a backing like that.
Your last national finals rodeo breakaway qualification, man, you hit some home run wins that year, winning Cheyenne, winning Pendleton. There was several more, but those 2, it's like just 2 those both in the same year, let alone in your career, but in the same
Yeah.
year. and having a year like that. And you said this year looks quite a bit different. So tell me, what was your most memorable big rodeo win, and what was your most memorable small rodeo win?
Oh boy. I guess Houston, getting to make the finals at Houston again this year. I got to rope in the final four there, I think twice now. And it's just such a cool rodeo. I don't know if there's anything quite like roping in Houston. It's definitely an all-time favorite for me. And even though I didn't win it or haven't won it, I am just grateful that I've gotten the opportunity to rope in the final four there. So that was probably my favorite big rodeo win this year. Um, as far as small rodeo wins or smaller, I I guess Missoula, Montana is gonna have to be one of my favorites. I think it was one of my first pro rodeo wins I ever had way back 5 years ago, and I think I've won it 3 times now. So it's a circuit
You did
rodeo
good
for
there.
me, and yeah, I like Missoula, you could say.
This year at Missoula, it was knee deep in mud, and the calves were 5 or 600 pounds, and it really wasn't fun when I was there. I did screw up to win money there, but it wasn't. When she says it's a most memorable win, it's because she loves that place, because it's not just like a tropical atmosphere to get to rope in.
I just say everyone was complaining about how cold it was, but I was just saying we're lucky it wasn't snowing because it could be snowing there in August. That could definitely happen. But that week of our circuit rodeos, that's the biggest week of Montana circuit rodeos that we have. And it was the muddiest, wettest, rainiest, coldest week of rodeo I've had. I'm not gonna say ever because growing up north, most of the time our high school rodeos in the spring were, a little chilly. We've had snow, we've had sleet, we've had it all. So I'm not gonna say it's the worst, but I think we just kinda got in a few years of great, not so muddy, rainy rodeos up here, and you kinda forget what it can actually be like, but yeah, Chinook and Missoula and Bozeman and Cascade was miraculously dry. I don't know how because everywhere around it was wet and muddy, but that week Glasgow, every single one that week I rode Reba at because it was nothing against Reba, but I didn't wanna do that to baby, but Reba stepped up. I think she won money at almost we pulled a check at nearly all of them in the mud that week, so she was having fun out there, but
And that's
it
another
was
thing that
it
we
was
face
memorable.
constantly on the road, those memorable wins, those
Yeah,
memorable moments, and Reba is definitely another. I think you might call her maybe a B string, but she's just as much A string as anybody else. You're when you win Pendleton, you ran your first one on Reba, you ran your last one on Baby, so there was shared wins
same
there,
with
she'd
Cheyenne.
been there,
Yeah, same with
and
Cheyenne. I don't know if you knew that, but I ran my first one on Reba that year. I won Cheyenne too.
well, there you
Yeah.
go, it's a pattern
Yeah.
of success, you should do that more often.
Yeah. I don't know if everyone knows this, but baby got hurt right after I had just gotten home from Reno this year, and, she was completely three-legged. Like, she held a hind leg off the ground for, I'm gonna say 10 days, and we took her to the vet, had her checked over, uh, assuming it was an abscess or a bone bruise because nothing was wrong, but it turns out it was an abscess, but we didn't learn that until months later until, it finally came out of her hoof or whatever, but I set out to Greeley and the whole 4th of July with her at home with a leg off the ground, like, she would not even put it on the ground, so I was, devastated at first, but I do truly feel like everything happens for a reason, and looking back now, I'm thankful, not that baby got hurt, but I'm thankful that it made me get on Reba and truly show people what she was capable of because, she didn't miss a beat for me. I'm just so proud of how good she worked and, for her to keep me in the mix of things all throughout the 4th of July, and luckily, baby got better way faster than we thought. We thought she was gonna be out for months because I thought it was a bone bruise, but since it was an abscess, she was back in a little over 2 weeks, and I did get to ride her in Calgary was her first run back. So, I was very blessed, but I even got to a point in the middle of the summer where I was almost more comfortable on Reba because you're out and, like, you're not home practicing, you're out in the battle of things, and I'm running calves on Reba, and I know baby is healthy and better, and it's going fine, so it's mentally hard to change, but I obviously ended up getting back on baby and rode both of them from there on out, and it was like I said, it was, it was good for me to know that I could accomplish things on someone other than baby, I guess.
What do you think that it takes those horses to, you hear a lot that you have confidence in baby or you have confidence in cookie or, whomever it may be that we ride. What do you think it takes for those horses to step up to the plate? For example, Reba this year, like, was it you giving her that chance or do you think she had it coming? Like, talk a little bit about your horses and, how you've seen them evolve. Your husband and you have a great horse program. Now you've got little babies running around. Reba
Yeah,
and baby are related. And so
yeah.
that's gotta give you quite a bit of just gratification and excitement knowing that that program's coming up, but expand a little bit more on how those horses gain that confidence and rise to the occasion.
I think a lot of horses that are truly good horses that are winners, I think that they are born with a certain confidence. I mean, I think they need the right person to help bring it out in them, but I mean, baby knows she's good. You don't have to tell her. You can just see it on her. And I think Reba's not quite as confident of a horse as baby, but she definitely, I mean, she is a go-getter, I would call her. She goes all in. I mean, she's gonna try her hardest. She's so quick across the line, and I know from the get-go, Taylor, he's always thought Reba's really good, and I know she's good too. I've used her at jackpots and used her at rodeos here and there and things like that, but I was just, this summer when there's I don't usually I have the option to saddle baby at everywhere I go, so it's hard to get off of her, and then going into the 4th of July and those rodeos this summer where I had to put my saddle on Reba and go for it. I think, in that moment, you just tell yourself, you're capable of it and she's capable of it. So you just gotta believe in both of you and go get it done. I guess that's what we did. So
Yeah, that is what you did coming in at number 10. The first qualification, Joy Williams, to the veteran fourth qualification, Joy Williams. What different advice would you give to her now?
oh man, it's hard to even compare my first qualification to my fourth because I feel like breakaway has changed so much. I mean, you just like you touched on the earnings. I think the first year I qualified, it was with like 22,000 and maybe like 30 some rodeos. So I mean, it's such a different experience. I feel like our event is getting more and more like the others. We're not in all the rodeos yet, but I think we're in most of them now, and so it's gotta feel a lot more similar to what the other events go through, but I think when I qualified the first time, I was surprised, and it was just fun and things are going your way and it's exciting, and then after you've done that and achieved those goals and, done it 3 times before and now going into the 4th time, you almost expect it, or I think you get more disappointed in yourself when things don't go well because you can do it. It's when you're struggling or doing good or every little thing is maybe more disappointing. Where maybe compared to the first year, if you win, you're like, oh, that was great. But now if I win 3rd place, you're just, I think I criticize myself more now because you know what you're capable of. And you just have to remind yourself that, you know, you don't have to be so hard on yourself all the time, but I would say that's definitely the difference. I don't know if I was probably in a better mental space my first year because I think it just gets harder from there.
It
Once you
does get
start
harder.
expecting once you start expecting things out of yourself, I think things get harder.
How have you learned to manage those expectations? I resonate with that a lot, in the fact of it's never enough. It's never good enough. You're always working hard, doing more. And I think that that's part of what's within us as competitors and as athletes and all the things. But at the same time, there's got to be to where you find a middle ground there. So what are some of the ways that you found middle grounds on your expectations and in and out of the arena?
I feel like that's a hard question, but I agree. I mean, me and my husband talked about it in September when I was out there. Obviously, there's lots of phone calls that he has to answer and help me get through things when he can't be there with me. And, that was one thing we touched on. He's just like, every time you go, you have such high expectations now. And he's like, you have to learn to just navigate through that. And sometimes just going and roping the calf for what it is and maybe winning 5th place is you just have to be good with that and move on and the win is coming at some point. every time, like I think JJ always says that every time you nod your head, you're closer to a win. And I truly believe that because if you believe in yourself, you're gonna win again at some time. So you just got to keep pushing through it and try not to let the little stuff bother you. And yeah, I agree. I think that we can be way too hard on ourselves as competitors, but I also think that's why we are good competitors is because we do have high expectations of ourselves and you hold yourself accountable if you're not riding your horse well or, being quiet in the box or doing whatever I think every time we make a run, we make a game plan. And if you don't execute that game plan how you set out to execute it, you have to hold yourself accountable.
I agree 100%. And I think our husbands I think everybody can resonate that has a husband. Their husbands are nodding their head like, yes, exactly. How many conversations do we have to have until you get it? And my poor husband, he has to have a lot of those. So
Well, I
bless his
think
heart.
I think you need both in your corner. You need your mom, your cheerleader, that's gonna be like, no matter what, it's the Caps' fault. Like, that's my mom to a T, and
You
bless
drew
her heart.
bad.
I love her for it. She's my biggest cheerleader. She's in her eyes, I can do nothing wrong. So you need one of those in your team, and you also need someone that's like, no, you actually did this, and you need to do this differently. So it's good to have a balance.
Tell me a little bit about the equipment that is your go-to in your rig, from your truck to your trailer to your rope bag, your saddles. What does it look like in Joy Williams rig?
So, baby, I've used the same stuff on for forever. I have a Lance Horner saddle, which is not really traditional. I kind of breakaway rope in a team roping saddle, and I have just always done that. I don't know whether good or bad. I don't know, but it's what I'm comfortable in, so it's what I've always roped out of. And I have best ever pads. They're my favorites. I on both Baby and Reba, I just use a chain port in their mouth, so nothing crazy with just a traditional rawhide tie down, nothing out of the ordinary. And Lone Star ropes are my go-to. I've used Lone Star ropes forever. We'll just say that since I used Lone Star ropes before they made breakaway ropes when they were just making team ropes. So they've been a staple in my life for a long time and my whole family's life. So they've been a great supporter of me for years. And definitely in my rope bag, you'll find baby powder. I can't have enough of it. I think you see Martha and I think Jordan's made jokes before about ordering it in bulk on Amazon, which I haven't quite done that. I like to wait till I'm almost out and then frantically look at every gas station for a little bottle of it and then have to usually borrow it at the rodeo. So I
Or
so
you see me in my rope bag and you share with me because you
yes,
know I've got it.
I've stole Jordan's baby powder more than one time. So I definitely need baby powder in there and
That's okay. I will share.
um
I am happy to share my baby powder with you, and I think that that's something, I just love for everybody's a little bit different, and there's certain things that are go-tos, and I just wanna expand more because I think for me, as breakaways evolved and changed so much, it's become so critical on what you're writing, and the biggest example that we can look to is those who win. What are they you guys are the ones that are winning, and so what are you writing? What are you using? How are you doing it? Because four-time NFR qualifier, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You've got something going on, and so I think that everybody that's listening and watching this can learn from something from everybody, so I just love to share that.
yeah.
And so as
Well,
we go on here, we know that breakaway's evolving. It's changed, right? We've talked about that. So in your opinion, what's changed about breakaway?
well, for one, I think it's gotten tougher. These these young girls are fast. And I think that as it's growing, it's just gonna get tougher and tougher, and there's going to be more girls that can get fast. But I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed is the horsepower. I think that more and more people are getting better at their horsemanship, which is extremely important even in breakaway roping. I mean, people might not think so because it's not like we're barrel racing, but horsemanship is so important. I think people are getting better at it, and so because of that, I think the horsepower is getting better, and I honestly think that's one of the main things I've noticed over the last couple of years from the first few years that we set out doing this.
Yeah, horsepower is critical, and
Mhm.
like you said, so I'm assuming you're taking Baby and Reba both to the NFR. How are you preparing this year? Is it any different from the years past, and what does that look like gearing up for the NFR?
It's pretty similar for me. This time of year, we're so busy on the ranch that I would love to go to Texas or Arizona and try to prepare down there, but we have a million things going on this time of year. So I'm just practicing at home when the weather allows. We don't have an indoor. Luckily, my parents have one. They live a couple hours away, so it's not super convenient. But a few weekends, I just load up the kids and we go stay with Nana and Papa for a few days, and I get to rope, and so that's been good. And other than that, like I said, just roping at home, and I have just 3 horses I've been practicing on, and baby doesn't get very many runs, so we use Reba and Jewel is another one that I have coming up, and just try to get those throws in on them and try to get realistic throws in, like, as if I were going places, obviously, I have to have good horsemanship and keep them working well, but I'm also trying to give myself those quick throws as much as possible just, to keep that muscle memory because if you're not competing, it does go away in a hurry, and there are a few smaller local jackpots I'll go to, but I don't think I'll get to go to very many, just a couple, but I'll try to go down for the Kimes, and I'll enter the last chance qualifier there to try to get some runs in the arena before that starts, and hopefully, after a week of roping in Scottsdale, we'll be really prepared for the NFR.
How do you factor in the roping at the Kimes Ranch? I think that that's something we don't talk enough about. Obviously, we're all very excited to get to go and compete there, but essentially, there's ropings all week long there. We're gonna start roping the last chance qualifiers start, Monday, and we rope all the way through Sunday if you want, and literally every day. And so how are you going into knowing that you're gonna rope all week at the Kimes Ranch, and then you're gonna turn around and go to Las Vegas and run 10 more?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because it's a little different, and I guess that's where I feel very blessed to have baby because I 100% believe that she'll work good in both setups, and, I think you really gotta believe in your horse because unless you have a place down there that you could maybe go score some calves or work on things in between, there's not a lot of time. I mean, it's really one goes right into the other. So, and that's where I think you can put a lot of trust in your horse where we're doing that in the summertime. You're going from rodeo to rodeo, different setup to different setup, and you're expecting your horse to just, at the snap of a fingers, switch up gears and do whatever you're asking them to do. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. But yeah, I think that I didn't get to rope in the finals of the Kimes last year, but I did rope in the last chance in the semifinals, and it's a pretty quick setup if they do it the same this year. And it has been 2 years since I've roped or a year since I've roped in Vegas, but I think that the start there might be just slightly longer, maybe stronger calves, depending on what we rope there, but pretty similar, but, also a little bit different. And so I guess you just like I said, you just kinda gotta believe in your horses that they're gonna go out there and do their job for that whole time because it is a lot of runs, and I will plan on using baby for, all of the important runs as long as things are going good, but I feel really good about having Reba along if I need to get on her at any point, so I'm glad I have a good
Yeah,
couple of
I
them,
love
yeah.
that. Good good game plan, good strategy. I think that that's gonna be great. And one of the things that we love, and I've seen it as a competitor, I've also seen it as a commentator. This year, I'm gonna be looking as an analyst, but you will have a whole charade of Montana flags and signs and bobbleheads of Joey in the stands, and so your family shows up and shows out at Las Vegas for you in the breakaway. I'm sure they play pro fantasy because obviously they're gamers too and they're competitors. Is that something that we're gonna have a conversation about Thanksgiving, like who's picking who on the breakaway team and what that looks like? Or tell me a little bit about pro fantasy and how that talk goes in your
Oh,
family.
I'm sure they like you said, I think I don't know if I'll have as big of crowd as usual, but it seems like it's going to be, quite a few people coming out to Vegas, so we're all really excited for that. My brother's got the T-shirts going and everything else, so I'm sure there'll be this year, the color is blue, so you'll probably see a big blue blob up in the stands going crazy, so that'll be fun, but yes, I think my family, they'll all love to gamble. I think you'll see that at the South Point Casino as well. There'll be a ruckus of a crowd. So of course they'll be playing Pro Fantasy Rodeo. And yeah, they'll probably be all racking my brains on who to pick, but or I think they're all a little too proud to ask for help. They'll probably just pick themselves.
I
Yeah.
like that one. That's what mine is.
Yeah.
They're all Raymond and I, we picked several different teams, but we're not sharing information with each other, and so it's like, who can secretly beat
Yes,
the other one?
exactly. It's a little too competitive around. If you can imagine that I grew up in a competitive family, I definitely did.
Yeah, I really didn't get that vibe talking to you. I thought you were more like a sweater kinda girl that maybe had some cats,
We do have
but
lots of
that was
cats.
it. Uh, well, I like cats too. I'm not nothing against cats, but There's so many people that support breakaway roping and are advocates for breakaway roping, as we've talked about Kimes Ranch, we talk about the WPRA, PRCA. Another association that is huge for breakaway roping is the Women's Rodeo World Championships, which now they're evolving. And so you and I were discussing a little bit earlier, have you nominated and what's that look like for you? But now it's called the PWR, Premier Women's Rodeo. And so it's a pretty big, exciting announcement, but they've got some rapid fire questions we're going to run through here just a second to kind of wrap up our 15 Days of Breakaway number 10 with Joy Williams. But tell me a little bit, do you nominate any of the WCRA or WRWC? I guess now it's Power. Do you nominate any of that, or how's that been for you in the
Yes,
past?
I definitely have nominated in the past. I have never got the chance to go down for their finals. Just I guess just have never been able to make the trip. It's during school for me, so I kind of have to navigate through. It's hard for me to have a lot of goals in a lot of different associations, and so I have nominated in the past, and it is definitely something I'm looking forward to in the future. So yeah.
I know. It's definitely an event that everybody needs to go to, especially every cowgirl. Obviously, it's a women's only event, but it's something that they show up and they show out and bringing all that money to the table and being able to nominate all the way through. Like I use the VRQ to get into the Kimes Ranch because my season also looked a little different. So it's a pretty neat association. We're excited to be partnered with them and Premier Women's Rodeo. But we have 3 rapid fire
Oh,
questions for you. So
sure.
are you ready? Okay. Every cowgirl's got a fighter in her. If you had a fighter name,
Oh
what would it
boy.
be?
Well, if you ask my kids, they'd probably call me the mean mom because I'm making them pick up their toys right now.
I'll take that. I don't see you as a mean mom. I've seen you be a very nice mom to Shay as she's being a wild little
Yeah.
Indian, but we'll take that answer. Okay, number 2. If ESPN called tomorrow and said, "We're drafting you into any sport," which one would it be that you were gonna go into?
I'd probably say basketball. I used to really love basketball. Probably my favorite sport.
You were a
I
baller.
I mean, I was okay.
Yeah, as the non-competitive cat lover says she was okay. Yeah. Okay, basketball. That'd be cool. WNBA Joy Williams. I mean, I could see it. I could see it happening. Okay, if your rodeo career was turned into a sports movie, what actress would play you?
Hmm, I don't know. That's a tough one, but, I'm just gonna go with Sandra Bullock because she's one of my favorite actresses.
I
Yeah,
love Sandra Bullock. Miss
propose
Congeniality. I mean, she's very fierce there. Yeah,
yeah,
I could definitely see that. Miss Sandra Bullock. So now we need it. We're calling Sandra Bullock out. She's gonna interpret Joey Williams. I mean, and then maybe we'll let her ride the
we
actual
could
baby. I
probably
don't know.
arrange that.
Well, it's always a fun rapid fire question segment. We appreciate Power, the Premier Women's Rodeo, for sponsoring us and being a part of this podcast. But to wrap this up, Joey, what are you going in? What's your goal for the NFBR this year and your biggest takeaway that you're looking forward
I'm
to?
just really excited to get to go back to Vegas and compete again, and I think I'm gonna just have the same goal that I always have. I want to go at every single calf. Don't put a lot of pressure on the overall picture. I just wanna make the most of every calf I get to run in there and see what happens at the end.
I love that goal, and we're excited to watch you in Vegas. That's always an outstanding atmosphere for you. You have a lot of success there. You're definitely somebody to be on the pro fantasy pick. You're probably gonna be on one of my teams, just saying. But congratulations for your 4th consecutive national finals breakaway roping qualification, 110,076 rodeos. Joy Williams, we'll see you in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
You are officially in the loop.